What if I told you that you could create stunning professional grade watercolor statement cards using only 7 crafty essentials? And even better, there's no stamping. If you're feeling a bit skeptical, stick around for this episode of Perfect Pairings with me. I think I might just surprise you. To begin, let's talk about brushes. This artist's watercolor foundation brush set of 7 brushes is the perfect set of brushes to get you started. I love the variety of sizes and brush types contained within this set. It's the perfect bundle to grow with, since there are detail round sizes up to more fun mixed media sizes and brush types for other creative needs. Up next, paper. This is the Artistry by Altenew cold pressed watercolor paper. This paper is perfect for card makers for the quality of watercolor paper and smoothness for stamping crisp outlines. I have tried expensive watercolor papers, and I have to say that this is really close in quality, but not so close in price. I'm using the A2 pack because it's perfect for my card fronts. Next, I have this roll of satin masking tape. Don't be fooled, you get much more when you purchase this from Altenew. This is just my well loved roll that I've been going through for quite a few years. Since we're not using stamps, I decided to print my sentiments. This is the Printable Sentiments digital download. So that means once you have this set of sentiments, you can print them for as long as you have the file on your computer. There are 3 columns of a white background, black text, and a black background with white text. The rows of sentiments are all the same from top to bottom. It's easy to snip a sentiment row on a paper trimmer and quickly create a focal point on your card front. Then, of course, we need the watercolor. There are 4 watercolor compacts from Sarah Simon, the Mint Gardener: Deep Muse, Moody Brights, Bold Ember, and Lush Terra. The last 2 are new for March 2026. On this video, I'll use Lush Terra. I love the jewel tones of this curated palette. To get a true sense of color, I'm using these palette swatch cards as a bonus item. This is not part of my grouping of 7 essentials, but I wanted to swatch these new colors and get a first impression of all of them. Just like the sentiments, if you need more swatch cards or custom color mixes, you can continuously print these for personal use and reference. I printed these on a trimmed down sheet of Artistry by Altenew watercolor paper. It needed just a little push in my inkjet printer, but otherwise, after letting this ink dry on my watercolor paper overnight, I felt like the quality of the print and graphic was perfect for swatching. To swatch these colors, I used the 1/2 inch flat watercolor foundation brush and made my own version of swatch gradients on these cards. I could easily trim these down using a blade and ruler or on any paper trimmer. Again, the Altenew watercolor cardstocks cut beautifully because they're made for crafters. Once trimmed down, these cards fit inside the compact and don't add bulk to the packaging, so they snap closed for easy color reference. As for the other swatch cards for color mixing reference, I'll put these cards into an Altenew storage sleeve in my watercolor drawer for future use. So far, I only referenced 5 essentials for no stamping watercolor cards. The other 2 will show up toward the end of the video when we assemble everything. First, I'll tape an A2 panel to my crafting surface and show this first simple watercolor card off. I'm gently reducing the strength of the adhesive by rubbing the tape on my skin. If you're sensitive to adhesives, tap this on your clean shirt instead. I'm adding this tape in an angle to mask off the bottom area of this panel. I'm using the 3/4 inch angled foundation brush. I'm creating a light value wash of deep sienna on the top of the tape and pulling that color down just a little bit. I'll remove the tape and let the pigment dry back enough to add another layer of satin masking tape. I'll concentrate the pigment just a little bit more on the lid of the watercolor compact to get a deeper value of deep sienna. Then apply another wash of this pigment. I'll repeat this masking, coloring, and concentrating the pigment 2 more times to get 4 monochrome color blocks on this panel. That's the first card, so easy. I'm using the perfect circle from the satin masking tape cardboard center as the template to trace 3 circles on another panel of watercolor cardstock. I want these 3 circles to overlap slightly, and I'm tracing the image very lightly with a graphite pencil. With the 3/4 inch angled foundation brush, I'll create the same wash of gradients in these three stencils. The first circle will be the lightest wash of soft rose. Then the second circle will be more concentrated. Then finally, the third circle will be the deepest in color value in saturation. I let these circles dry back between each concentration of ink. If you want to make multiples of this card, it would be so easy to make all of your circles first, then color your lightest circles. Depending on how many cards you're making, you could return to your first card assembly line style, and it should be dry enough to support another pigment layer. But anyway, this will complete this soft rose circular mask card, perfect for really filling up a panel with interesting minimalist shapes. Speaking of minimalist, this one is probably the simplest card we're going to make in this series of cards. I'm going to really concentrate violet nightshade to the point where the color saturation is really intense on my brush and on the palette. I'll apply a single stripe of this pigment on the top of my taped down watercolor panel. Then, moving with intention, I'll pick up some clean water from my dish and drag a segment of this color down to the next area of my panel, creating a horizontal stroke on my surface. I'll repeat this overlapping wash of clean water all the way down my cardstock piece. Notice I'm not really cleaning my watercolor brush between washes. I'm just picking up more water to dilute and carry the pigment to the next area of my card front. The creation of multiples of these cards is a great way to practice gradients, and it's just a really fun way to play with your new watercolors. In this next scene, we'll do a slight spin of the angled gradient washes using deep sienna and use the next color in Lush Terra, which is hydrangea blue. I love the airy feeling of this color. It's perfect for making this freehand mountain scene. I'm starting with a dilute wash of hydrangea blue on the lid of the watercolor compact. More water, less pigment. I'll use the 3/4 inch angled foundation brush to create jagged peaks on my cardstock panel. I'll also bring this color down slightly to meet my next mountainous row. Just like the gradient cards we have been making, we will concentrate this color just a little bit more to get the next mountain row. I'm using the lid of the compact to give just the right mix, ensuring it's slightly more saturated than the previous layer. Once I'm happy with the color saturation, I'll vary the mountain range slightly with my brush and apply that mountain row. Again, I'll do this two more times with more concentrated layers of watercolor pigment to complete my mountain range. Honestly, learning experience here I'm sharing, I think I would have made my mountains closer together, possibly starting halfway up the cardstock instead of nearly three-fourths of the way up, so that my mountain rows are not so spread out. But either way, it was a fun card to make, and maybe you'll enjoy your mountain ranges like this on your projects. I'm going to be real with y'all. I wasn't sure if this next card was going to work. But again, this was just a fun learning experience, and I was surprised with the results of this one. You're going to need a flat plastic card or scraper for this one. Expired credit card, vinyl decal scraper, just something that will resist water but also has a flat edge. I'm using an Altenew acrylic block because I had it within reach. I'm creating a blob of sea glass watercolor pigment in whatever concentration I want at the top of my cardstock panel. Make sure to add enough water to actually create a substantial pool on your cardstock panel. Don't just moisten the paper. Then, while the pigment is suspended in a pool, I'll take the flat edge of the acrylic block and pull the watercolor straight down my panel. This will create a jagged streak down my panel. Tip for you, don't stop halfway down your panel. Drag whatever tool you're using all the way down to the edge of the opposite side of your cardstock and really spread that watercolor. Mix light saturation with deep saturation, and you'll get this quick, free-form spread of pigment. I love the organic stripes with this technique, and honestly, I was really surprised. Almost done with the sixth and final color in this palette. Let's showcase our last technique with emerald cedar. We'll need a circular template again. The inside of the satin masking tape was perfect for this. I'm tracing a circle in the exact center of another watercolor cardstock panel with the same graphite pencil. I'm switching out the 3/4 inch angled foundation brush for the number 10 round. Try this on a scrap piece of paper first. It doesn't have to be watercolor cardstock. We are going to press the belly part of the brush into the cardstock with emerald cedar, then gently lift and pull the pigment away from the tip of the brush, creating this leaf or teardrop shape. Do you see where this is going? We are going to create these one stroke leaves around the graphite circle template. I think the more uneven and varied your leaves are, the more organic your watercolor painting feels. I did try to keep all the leaves facing in relatively the same direction to give the leaf some sort of uniform appearance, but otherwise, don't concentrate so hard on making these leaves perfect. It's not that serious, and it's just supposed to be a fun card. For me, it helped me to rotate the cardstock as I went so I could keep my hand placement the same. After adding a row of leaves in the round, I added a slightly angled version outside my first row, followed by another angled version in the inner row of leaves. Then I added slightly smaller leaves just outside my initial row of one stroke leaves. Of course, this one is great for the holidays, spring, summer. Okay, anytime. But if you make a boo boo, you can always just cover it up with some violet nightshade berries. Watercolor brushes, watercolor palettes, watercolor paper, sentiment strips, and satin masking tape. Really, those are the core of what we need for infinite watercolor cards. The sixth addition to this set of products is some foam tape. Altenews Instant Dimension Foam Tape helps combat watercolor paper warping for that sleek feeling on these cards. I just like when watercolor panels lie flat on the card front. That's just a personal preference. I trimmed down a few of the panels to 3 3/4 by 5 inches for that perfect mat to the folded note card base. And speaking of folded note card base, that would finish my seventh and final essential item to make perfect watercolor card sets. I have my own folded note card base, but I added the Altenew folded bases to the description box if you're trying to make your own Altenew shopping list. I foam mounted these four reduced panels in the exact same way. I also added a sentiment strip to each panel and tried to pair a sentiment to a watercolor background. For the ombre violet nightshade wash, I trimmed the width to 3 3/4 inches, but instead of cutting both ends to 5 inches tall, I cut one end with my paper trimmer and then ripped the lighter value side to create a deckled edge. To me, that's the perfect nuance to balance the clean lines of the card base. The wreath card was slightly different in finish. I only reduced the edges by 1/8 of an inch on each side so that I preserved more of the watercolor wreath in the center. Then I added a printed black sentiment strip directly to the center of the card. Emerald cedar, sea glass, hydrangea blue, violet nightshade, soft rose, and deep sienna. A full spectrum of organic beauty, all born from one compact and a few intentional strokes. Seeing them all together, it's hard to believe we didn't reach for a single stamp or a complex die cut. By leaning into our seven essentials, the brushes, the palette, the paper, those versatile sentiment strips, our masking tape, and the structural support of foam tape and the card bases, we've cleared away the clutter. What's left is just the joy of the medium. Whether you're creating a deckled edge for a bit of texture or a clean matted frame for a minimalist wreath, remember the perfect pairing isn't just about the products on your desk, it's about the connection between your vision and the paper.